So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thank you, CAF. Thank you, PNUD. Thank you, Detonante. And I hope you enjoy what is, for us, a dream come true. I want to give a very special thanks to WaterBear and to the Resilient Foundation. WaterBear is the production company behind this project. WaterBear traveled Latin America these 2 years with an amazing production team, looking for these stories, searching for the stories. And the Resilient Foundation has been a very important partner for us. What comes next is an ecosystem of change makers, of leaders, and of partners. We want to invite you to be part of this project. We want to invite you to be part of this movement. We need more stories to be told. Thank you for being here, and please enjoy our film.
Nos tardamos hasta la 11ª hora, que ya está encima la catástrofe para reaccionar, pero tenemos una capacidad de reacción enorme.
Ahí está. I was born and raised in this neighborhood. It was a rough outcome.
No se puede uno producir en nuestras propias tierras. Lo único que se hace es migrar.
Mi familia le tocó que salir y dejar todo botado.
Las niñas quieren desarrollar sus talentos, pero el currículum escolar no abarca eso.
We're all taught this narrative.
And I would like to invite colleagues, friends, partners that had made this possible so we can have a good conversation, an extraordinary conversation about what this means, what we're looking for, what we're dreaming, what we want to inspire, what we want to mobilize, and what we dream. This is going to probably change the 2030 agenda, bringing it closer to our daily lives, connecting it with music, connecting it with culture, connecting it with the things that every day, how we say in Spanish, nos mueve la aguja, moves the needle. So I would like to invite Cristian Ancinelli, Vice President of I'm sorry, my translation gets in the way, pero Vicepresidente Corporativo de la Programación Estratégica de CAF. Cristian, thank you for being here. Thank you for being an extraordinary partner to Lina, to Fernando, to Andrés, to Patricio, all of your team. Thank you, and of course to President of CAF, Sergio Díaz Granados. Te invito, I invite you to join me in this panel. I would like to also invite Almudena Fernandez. She is the Chief Economist of the UNDP, an extraordinary partner as well. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Maria Pinedo. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Michelle, who cannot join us, but I know she is with us in spirit, pushing this project forward. Almudena, please join us. I would like to invite Poppy Mason. Poppy is the Chief Growth and Impact Officer of WaterBear, the extraordinary production company behind this beautiful project. And I want to add a little bit of Latin American spice to this conversation. We have the honor of having Julieta Martinez with us, an entrepreneur whose story you just saw. Julieta, adelante, bienvenida. Please join us in this conversation. And a dear friend of mine who is here tonight, and it brings a lot of joy that he is here. It is AJ Ramos. AJ is the Chief Culture and Music Leader for Latin America of YouTube. He is a man that has worked his entire life with the power of music, the power of content, the power of social media. He's an extraordinary Latin leader and a good friend. AJ, thank you for joining us.
Could we give a big round of applause to Maria, please? For her leadership, her dedication, the passion that she has to make a change. for your bright disposition and for the blood, sweat, and tears that you have done for this project and everything that you do. Because energy is currency.
Energy is currency. Thank you, my friend. It is an honor to be here. It is an honor to have this conversation. I don't know if we can move a little bit. Eso, para que nos veamos todos y podamos conversar. This is a conversation between friends. And I would really start with Christian, a development bank behind a production series like this. Why? Why is this strategic? Why is changing the narrative of Latin America important? Why do we need to show the world that we are a region of solutions?
Well, first of all, thank you, Maria, for all your work. I think that everybody is astonished with this movie. I think that we felt something really extraordinary because we work in this project for so many years, maybe 2 years. Yes.
And a little bit more.
Yes, and we have a lot of year in advantage to work for this. But first of all, I would like to say that this initiative had the leadership of Sergio Díaz-Granado, that is the executive president of CAF. He said something that sometimes he had ideas, sometimes he had, I don't know the translation in English, ocurrencias. Everybody understand ocurrencias? And sometimes this started to be a project, and this is an example of an ocurrencia that followed an idea, and today is something that is very real. And I think that this could not be possible without someone who is here sitting in front, Lina Mondragon. Please. You need, please stand up.
Lina, please stand up because you are the woman behind this.
They want to see the outfit. They want to see the outfit.
In this project, Lina is the soul of this project. I think that this is a collective action project. And in CAF we are very commitment with the development is in our ADN, and the development, the integration, and the ways to work for the other people. We think that in our ADN, the people is the first. For this reason, we made this movie. And because this is a collective action project, I know that this is not maybe in the narrative of the allocation, but I would like to share the words with Lina, because she's the real hero on this project. I'm here because I'm the vice president of CAF. This is the truth. But the truth is that she worked very hard to be here more than 2 years ago. We start with this idea almost 3 years when we start to talk about why and how we can interact with Detonante, and thank you again, and with UNDP, and thank you, Almudena and Michelle, because work with Michelle and all your team was a really good experience. We are working a lot. For example, next Monday, and this is propaganda, we'll have the second meeting with NDP about governance. And for this reason, well, Lina, please say something, because you are the soul of the project. And everybody has to know that we are here because of you.
This is happening, but okay.
The pressure, the pressure.
You will know.
Hello, everyone. Just to answer your question, Maria, we are a bank, but at the end, we work for the people and the planet, and we are not doing the job good enough. We have to change. We have to do more, and this is kind of an idea of how we can do things different. How can we explore different avenues, different languages, different allies and partners to make things possible. So that's basically the philosophy and the reason why CAF decided to be part of this project, just to do something else. And that is what is happening and is going to happen all this week of the United Nations General Assembly, and what is behind the Summit of the Future reflection. And we have to, it is not, we are not doing things good enough. We have to change, we have to do more, and let's see if with this project we can contribute and help to do that.
I'm not going to let you leave. Now that I have you sitting down, I'm not going to let you leave. And it is true, it was a little bit, maybe more 3 years than 2, the first time that we sat down. These projects take cooking time, no? It's like un arrocito en bajo. You have to put the heat a little bit low so that the flavor comes out. And the first time that we sat down with Lina and with Sergio, it was an immediate yes. Let's be disruptive. Let's find a way to connect the SDGs. It is easy for us that we work in sustainability. This is a natural language for us. When we walk outside the streets and we ask someone, do you know what an SDG is? Y voy para ti, Almudena, because this is a question that we had for the development program of the United Nations. How are we doing this job of connecting the world's most relevant agenda to change our future? And how can we make it digestible, sexy, inspiring? And how can we disrupt the education that we need so that we can really, as Lina says, change, and change systemically? Almudena, we would love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Maria. And allow me to start again by thanking our partners, CAF, Detonante, and everybody that worked tirelessly on this project. It's been a long time, and also take a minute to thank the team from UNDP that worked tirelessly on this, Claudia Bresanovich and her team, because it's really amazing to see this come to fruition in such a successful way. You know, we work on SDGs day in and day out. That's our bread and butter at UNDP. But I think we work with governments, we help them process how these connect. I think these are all agenda items that we have on our agendas to make the world a better place. That's why the SDGs came to be. Governments around the world decided this is the world we wanted to move towards. This is the world we want. But on the ground, there's so much happening towards this agenda that people don't necessarily link to it. And I think what we saw today is a beautiful example of the interconnections between those 17 goals that we work on, because nothing is just about gender or just about education. All these things come together on the ground when we empower people, when we support people to have the freedom to live the lives they want to live, to have the agency to make decisions and take control over their lives. So I think that's a beautiful way to look at this series, and that's really what we want to communicate. We can we can come at the SDGs from many different angles, but at the end of the day, it's an agenda that it's not gonna be achieved goal by goal, indicator by indicator. It's an agenda that is gonna move forward together in an integrated way as people have more control and are more empowered to move in progress and live the lives that they wanna live. And I think you talked about narrative, and I think Latin America has everything we need. It has so much potential to be a leader in terms of how we make progress towards the SDGs. We're a region that is relatively young. We're a region that is extremely diverse both in our people, but also in our biodiversity. We're a region that is still very democratic, and we also are a region that has proven to be very innovative when it comes to reducing poverty, to working towards taking care of our planet. So there's so much potential there, and I think we need a narrative that brings hope to all of us working in this arena, but also all citizens around the world, and also knowing that we can do it, but this potential is kind of not going to be realized automatically. We have to take actions, and from our perspective as multilaterals, but also with the governments we work, it's about creating the enabling environment for solutions like those we saw in these videos to be scaled. How do we find more of that? There's so much going on. So for us, it's about how do we create that environment where, you know, those innovations that are happening at the community level, at the local level, can have a space to grow, to be scaled, to become nationwide, region-wide solutions to make progress towards these goals. And I think, you know, why focus on resilience? I think resilience is a narrative that allows us to look at the future with hope, that can bring, in a time where many things are highly polarized around the world and in our region, we can all gather together with the idea of creating a future where we all can progress and where we can withstand shocks when they happen. We live in a world where after COVID and many cascading crises, people feel a little bit more uncertain. So how do we create this narrative where we know we can withstand these shocks? When we think about resilience in nature, people say, the literature says, it's about bending and not breaking. But we want to take it a bit farther, and it's about bending and also being able to flourish after bending. So it's not only withstanding the shock, but being able to really grow and flourish and thrive after that shock. So I think this narrative is really something that can move us toward hope.
Thank you. I have to confess, it's a night of confessions and friends. Hola, hola. ¿Me oyen? It's a night of confession and friends. We are very excited to be here. We are very excited to share this with you. And when we started dreaming about this project with Lina, with Sergio, with Fernando, with Andres, the entire Jennifer, Jose, the entire CAF team, we said, we need two very important partners. We need the United Nations. We need the development program to be part of this. How can we get to them, reach them, make them part of this? So thank you for being part of this and making it a reality. And we needed an extraordinary production company. And we started looking around the world and interviewing different production companies. And we met WaterBear. WaterBear is probably the most important platform of environmental impact narratives today. The work that WaterBear does, the work that Resilient Foundation does, is changing habits with movies, with series, with content. Poppy, why is this important? How can a movie, how can a series change the world?
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to apologise because I think it's my fault the panel's not in Spanish, so apologies everyone. I speak very little Spanish, but thank you for having me and lovely to see it. It's the first time I've seen it on a big screen, so it's fantastic. For those of you that don't know, WaterBear is an impact media network. We use stories. We recognise that stories have the power to mobilise, they have the power to inspire, they have the power to do what I say is kicking people up the bum and making them do something. And with WaterBear we connect those stories to the doing. So we connect stories with campaigns, with activations, with NGOs, and really with real world tangible impact. And I think ultimately the environmental crisis or the climate crisis or the communications around the SDGs, it's really a communications crisis. And we are trying very hard in all of our different ways to tell the story and to mobilise people. And this project couldn't be more synonymous with that, right? It uses music, it uses culture, it uses real human stories, it uses what we call our audience the imperfect activists, right? It's the people that want to do a little bit more but aren't quite perfect yet. I'm definitely one of those people. And this really encompasses all of that. It brings all of that together, it harnesses culture, it brings in community, and it makes those stories human-centric and relatable. And it makes you want to kind of get up and say, I want to go and join those communities, I want to go and do those things that they're doing. So I think storytelling has that power, right? It has the power to shift narratives, to shift opinions, and to shift behaviours ultimately, which is what we're trying to do. So looking forward to launching this and seeing what we can do with it.
And it is available tonight?
Tonight, yes, on the platform. It's very free to download.
On the platform of waterbear.org.
September 26th, Thursday, September 26th.
Sorry, Thursday, September 26th. It will be available.
Maria and I have both just got off a flight, so we're also
Yes,
very,
we're a
very
little
jet
bit-
lagged, so you can
yes.
blame that.
So aside from a night of confessions, I have to say it is also a night to manifest the future of this project, to manifest the enormous community that we want to build. And as good Latin Americans and Caribbeans, we live through music, we think in music, we wake up with music, and we are completely connected to the power that music has with this. For us, a dream of this project is that YouTube becomes part of this, and of course the series will also be available on YouTube, on our channel, elcambioposible.com.
Make sure you subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. And that is why I have asked my dear friend AJ to join us in this conversation, because I couldn't think of anyone more inspiring to tell us why music and why social media today is changing the world, is changing the way younger generations are connecting with content, and how this can evolve beyond la pantalla, beyond the phone, beyond the computer.
The pressure is on. Music educates, entertains, and empowers. Music can be consumed locally, globally, and locally. Music is part of revolutions, it's part of protests, it's part of our generations, and it comes in different languages. Latin music is not a genre, it is a culture. We are the mainstream, and with music, we are telling a story. We are taking the story from our past, bringing it to the present, and empowering it for our future. There's no coincidence why in political campaigns, everyone is trying to seek an artist for impact. Because nowadays, music and the artists that make the music do have impact and influence to make the change. But that requires all of us to run a single race. And for me, it's an honor and privilege to be here, Maria. Like I told you, count on me. God is a source. I'm just his resource. And with music, we can create a change. With music, we can speak to different generations. With music, we can speak to the younger generations, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. With music, we can tell the story of what we're trying to control with this narrative as to why we need change, why we need to come together. And as you saw in the documentary, you have West Polima, who is from Angolan descent from Chile. And with music, we're able to tell that story. And this is why I believe it's so important, especially artists like Carlos Vives, who has always been an advocate to what's going on in Colombia. And with music, con la cumbia, with music, you can empower. Music saved my life. Music provides daily bread for my family. This is why I feel that I'm in this place now where I can use music and the resources of music to continue to talk about these changes. When it comes to social media, content is king, marketing is queen, perception is checkmate, but with consistent content, we create community and change. And nowadays, we have to adapt and adjust to the shift of the cultural paradigm. And what is that? If everyone is on their phone, we dish content that represents them and also tells a story. It entertains, it educates, and empowers. And one size does not fit all for our community. This is why it's important to differentiate the content and share it on all the platforms to create that community. And with the community, we can create that change for the world. Because our legacy is not to want more, it's want to be more. It's want to be a change, to be less of ourselves and pay it forward for the future generations. And that's how we connect culture, content, and music. And Maria, once again, congratulations for connecting, inspiring, and making this happen. And thank you all for being here.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that vision, because when we present this project, the first thing that people ask is, why music? Why not only tell the story of the extraordinary leader? That is why. Thank you. Thank you, and we truly believe that it is music, the one that can connect. And this, all of this, is not possible without the stories of those entrepreneurs, those extraordinary leaders that on the ground, that in every country are changing the world. For us, the dream, the big dream of this is to connect these projects, is to tell their stories, is to inspire through their stories. And how could we not have one of the protagonists of these first 3 chapters, Julieta? It's an honor to have you here. It's an honor and a universe conspiring so that this project today that is born begins to weave an enormous network of partners. Julieta, thank you for being here, and I would love to hear your point of view, especially on gender equality, especially on the work that you're doing, and how for you as a social entrepreneur, getting the capacity of telling what you're doing to the world can really transform your work on the ground.
Absolutely, and my English gets really rusty when I'm like overwhelmed, so prepare for like a little, because I think I cried like 3 times during the winter. I mean, there's my friend Bandy, and we were like looking at each other and looking at like, I was like, I cried like 3.5 times, because the 3rd time was all like teary eyes. It's such an immense privilege to be able to talk about Tremendas. Tremendas is in 18 countries around Latin America and the Caribbean. We're in Chile, in Mexico, in Ecuador, in different countries that we're quite different. But we connect not only through being victims of the climate crisis, but we also want to be protagonists of change. Normally, I just came from the summit of the future. That's actually why I'm in New York right now. And I really like those spaces. I'm really interested in talking about today's International Day of Peace. So we were talking about conflict resolution and sustainability, and how can we implement solutions that actually tackles what people need, not what technicalities and governments need. Because normally there's like a lack of connection with the territorio, no? The grounds. And there's a phrase that really marked me the first time that I got into the world activism, is that Spanish is uno no protege lo que no conoce y uno no ama lo que no conoce. That in English is you don't protect what you don't know, right? And you don't love what you know, you do not know. And while I was looking at the documentary, and actually I was thinking about a conversation that we had while we were filming, like an off camera with the girls, that we were talking about. I don't know if you have heard this narrative of like younger generations are more connected with problems related to the climate crisis, the environment. I don't know if you have heard about sort of that thing. This is my controversial take. This is my hot take.
I love it.
But I think that's fake. I think that's not true. And why do I say this? Because I'm going somewhere, right? Of course. It's not that I'm an anthropology student, and basically my job, what I'm doing right now, is studying history. You know, how people come together and start revolutions, and start rethinking economy, rethinking the future, rethinking what sustainability really means, and doing every single process in time. People, especially young people, has to take some sort of leadership when it comes to changing or transforming society, right? So normally the question is why right now we're thinking, when we talk about sustainability, we talk about gender perspective. We try to focus on most marginalized communities. And I think that's because right now we are the most educated generation throughout time. Who here is first generation that went to university? I would like to know. Is there any first generation that went to university? Hello, first generations. Congratulations.
Right over here, right next to you.
Wonderful. Hello. Second generation. I'm a second generation that went to university after my dad and my mom. And it's such a privilege to get access to actually educate yourself and understand not only problems, but actually constantly thinking about solutions. And I think that's what marks this generation, that then like this idea of Gen Z that doesn't really feel so afraid. Right, like the girl that I was talking in during the one part ISIS, I met her when she was 2 months pregnant, and I remember this conversation with her saying, I really want to change the future not only for myself but for my son that wasn't even born yet, right? And I think that's a conversation that constantly around why people doesn't want to have kids right now, or why people feel so afraid of what future actually means. So I think the power of storytelling is really something amazing that we have to pursue. And if I can just leave it like with this one final message to you is, right now, a lot of solutions comes from fear, from uncertainty. Most of the girls that I work with, it's because they were afraid. They have nobody to rely to, and they come to Tremendas because they're searching for a safe place to work together. And I really hope that in the future, every single project and dream and solution comes from a place of hope. That we're not right there yet, but I know it's a possibility. And that's why we need South American stories. That's why we need Latin American stories, Caribbean stories that normally gets in a second plane in history. So
Absolutely, yes. I want to ask you all the same question. And I want to ask you how you are perceiving Latin America. We're in Climate Week. We are in the midst of UNGA. Next week, the world's leaders are going to meet and join and discuss, and we're talking about how do we bring down the talking, how do we bring down those conversations and take them to action. And one of the reflections that we've been having doing this project is that Latin America is not a protagonist in the conversations, geopolitically speaking. In a week like this, in the week that follows, where countries have the enormous crises like Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, how does Latin America open itself an agenda? And I would like to start with you, Lina, and with what you feel is happening.
That's a very difficult question, but actually what CAF is been doing is trying to elevate the voice of Latin America and the Caribbean and show the world that this is a region full of challenges but also full of solutions. This movie or documentary or project shows that's actually happening, that we have very powerful and inspiring people that is doing things to have a better life and to really protect genuinely the planet. So what we have to do is to use multilaterals, for example, as CAF, as platforms to show the world that we are a very powerful region that has lots of things to put on the table and to change the narrative.
Can we share the answer with Lina?
Please do.
Well, as Lina said, we try to elevate the voice of Latin America and the Caribbean in these scenarios. Last year or the other, we made a very important week here in the UNGA week, and the last year we went to Spain to elevate also the voice of Latin America and the Caribbean, and we perceive ourselves as a region that is a solution for the global problems, because in our institution we work in infrastructure project, and we have here our manager of infrastructure, Tony Silveira, who is responsible of part of the successful of this organization. We work in different areas, but one of these is water and sanitation, as we saw in
the first chapter.
Yes, the first chapter that was very inspiring, and we had also here Ángel Cárdenas. Ángel Cárdenas is the manager of development, urban development, water, and creative economics, isn't it? And as Tony, both of them are responsible of the successful of our organization, because maybe 60-70% of the project in CAF are leading by these two persons. And in water, for example, we know, well, I had here a lot of number about million of people that don't have access to water, sanitation, etc. But we work every day because of the people. Because we understand that we live in one world, as the Pope Francis said, in our casa común, as he said, and we are working every day to try to change the life of millions of people in Latin America and the Caribbean. And I said at the beginning, and Lina said, and our president always said, we are absolutely, we know that Latin America and the Caribbean have the possibility to lead this change in the world, and we are the generation that if we don't work in this change, the next generation, well, you talk about one generation of education and the second one, the next one, my daughters and the daughters or boys of everybody here won't have a world, or will have a world very different. And we have a responsibility. We are here in a development bank trying to make this change. And I think that this movie is very inspiring in the work that we make every day.
Thank you. In terms of music, probably the last 10 years, 15 years, Latin America has taken a lead. And that for us is an anchor. How are you seeing Latin America and its relevance in terms of what is being produced, what our region can influence the change of the world?
I think that, due to platforms like YouTube where you're able to see numbers, right? You're seeing the power in the charts of what is Latin America, the power of Mexico City, the power of Cono Sur, the power of the Andes. But more importantly, what I see is more community, right? At one point, a Colombian problem was a Colombian problem, a Mexican problem was a Mexican problem. Now it's becoming more of a voice that is united in a situation and awareness that we're creating as one voice, right? Talked about the Caribbean. It was beautiful to see you're talking about the Caribbean, but you also see Barbados, you see Jamaica, because it is the Caribbean as well. And I believe that this documentary gives a lot of awareness with the art of what is music to tell that story. But like you mentioned, it's a beautiful point. People can't love what they don't know about, and people can't fear what they're not educated about as well. And I think through documentaries like this, you're able to simplify it and bring it to different terms of what's actually is really happening and creating that awareness. But it's easy to talk about the problem, but also creating the solutions to that situation in order to overcome it. So, as we know, music, when it comes to Latin, there was a point where everyone wanted to do music in English. Now we're looking at American artists wanting to do music in Spanish, and we are general market, we are pop culture, and we are the majority. So let's act like one, let's be bold, and let's continue to create change.
I love that. Thank you so much. Poppy, you're coming into Latin America. You've been doing content. WaterBear has been doing content of Latin America for many years.
Yeah.
But now officially, there is an I. There is a will, there is a manifestation. What are you seeing in the Latin American creation of content in the projects that you've been working on?
100%. So we've only been around as a platform for 3.5 years, and as you say, we've worked on projects focused on LATAM for many years, for the years that we've been around. But do you know what? In the last 18 months, it's gone like that. There is an abundance of stories coming out of LATAM, and I think as a platform we have a responsibility to make sure that we're championing them and we are platforming them in the right way, and working with local creators, local filmmakers, local production partners. And we're also looking at the platform is currently English language, but the first localization we will be doing is for LATAM because of the demand for content out of that region. So we're looking at localization and translation. I won't say this year, that would be too ambitious, but it will be next year, which is exciting because it's testament to how many stories and how much content is coming out of the region.
Absolutely, and a testament of what you just said. We are a huge region, a diverse, multicultural, and we really can drive change. Almudena.
Thank you. So you mentioned, how are we seeing the region from where we stand, from where we work, and I think it's really obvious that it is a time for change in the region. We see many positive signs and also some not so positives. We see a number of transitions happening. They're happening around the globe, but are also hitting the region in a particular way. We have a digital transformation that is ongoing, that is affecting every aspect of our life. We have a green transition that is also changing the way we think about consuming and producing, our electricity matrix, and we also see transitions towards societies that sometimes are more polarized and more fragmented. And I think an underlying current of that fragmentation is a petition for more change. And the question is, how do we make sure this change goes in the positive direction, right? How do we manage the tensions that arise from this context towards the development we want to see? And I think a couple of things that have already been mentioned. I think we need to start thinking of ourselves more as a region, and there's some positive signs, like you said, music is a very interesting example, but we have to leverage each other's strengths. We're a diverse, vast region together. We have a very strong presence, but we haven't really been presented ourselves as an integrated region in the many forums where decisions are being made. So I think that regional integration and finding those issues around which we can build coalitions and we can coalesce is fundamental. And then, and again, this speaks to some of what we saw in the documentary, we need to really prioritize potentiating innovation. We need what brought us here, although the region has made tremendous progress, if we think about poverty and any development indicator, what got us to this point is not gonna be enough to take us to the next level. So how do we innovate in terms of how we provide social services, how we provide social protection, how governments create this enabling environment for innovation, for entrepreneurship, for productivity. And then finally, and again, this is beautifully captured in the documentary, how do we leverage all that knowledge that is already on the ground in our region? We have ancestral knowledge. We are a leader in terms of providing nature-based solutions to many of the problems we see around the world, but we just haven't been able to really leverage that knowledge, and I think there's a lot more work to be done. But I think this documentary is a start. I was watching my son watch the documentary, and I think it really hit home how these things come together and how, what is it that I do every day at the office. I think maybe this will help him get a better sense of that.
I love that. Julieta, Tremendas is in many countries in Latin America. How are you seeing the region in terms of connecting the projects, sharing knowledge, collaborating with other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I'm going to be really brief, of course, since we're closing it. I think it really connects with something that you just said, Elena. There's a lot of people, we already have the solutions, right? And there's a lot of people in territories. For example, there's places in a place called in Chile, Monte Patria. That's the first community in Chile that were actually officially called climate migrants, because they don't have water anymore and they were forced to be displaced, right, to relocate. And these are people, because I've been traveling a lot to talk about these people, doing ethnography, connecting with communities, because that's part of the job, not just being the big conferences with big people and big names. And these are people that knows perfectly what adaptation is, what resilience is, and what mitigation is. They don't know the technical aspects of it. Maybe they're not going to talk about 1.5 Celsius, they're not going to be talking about numbers, but they have done it since they were born. They know how to tackle the problem. But what lacks is investment. I mean, sometimes we're afraid to talk about money, maybe, and I noticed that in many conferences.
It's a cultural thing too, no?
Absolutely,
for
yeah.
Latin America.
And especially, I would say especially for women, like the idea of asking for, I need a grant in order to get the tools and mechanisms to do stuff. And actually, I really want to thank CAF also in that aspect, because we need to invest in education, because education is power. And we don't have to invest in wars. We don't have to invest in guns. We have to invest in education, in knowledge, in people that has been tackling the effects of climate crisis, have been tackling the effects of gender violence, and they need to be visibilized. We need to invest in storytelling, because storytelling connects with people. They get to feel something and take that stories with them and to their communities and their families. So there's a lot to do, of course, and actually I feel like everything that we talked today, I will try to take them to the Summit of the Future tomorrow. And also I want to make a promise to everybody that work in this beautiful documentary to take it to the schools. Let's work together, let's get to the schools, let's work with liceos and colegios, no matter if it's from like private schools or it's public schools, everybody needs to know about this and connect these beautiful stories. So that are the children that are going to be in the next documentaries that this wonderful project's making. So.
Bueno, I would like to close this beautiful conversation with a very quick question to a quick response. This is a project that calls for action. We don't only want to tell the stories. We want to invite you to take action. We want to invite communities to take action. We want people to reflect. We want to invite curiosity. So I would like to close with a call to action from each one of you, very concrete, to close this night and to thank you for joining us. Julieta, llamado a la acción, a call to action.
Take every single story that you saw in the documentary and get to actually follow these stories. Not just like watch them and feel, oh, they're so inspiring, and then just move on. Because it happens, right? Especially right now we're living in the world, it's speedy. And how do you say it? Like, estar corriendo todo el rato, no? We need to make a sort of seguimiento, a follow-up to their stories, know how they're doing, if they're connecting with our communities. That's what makes the actual difference. That if you work in the private sector or public sector and can help them, go find them. Because normally we're always expecting like community to search up for people, like and that can give them the tools, but sometimes we are the ones that should be focusing in connecting with them and getting to find them. So, yeah.
I think development is not something that happens from New York or at the Capitol in the government's offices. Development is all of us. So my call to action would be in your day-to-day, in your house, in your communities, in the spaces that you occupy. How can you make those spaces a little bit better? How can you make sure you're taking care of the planet and the people around you? And I think that's where development starts.
Well, this is a difficult question, but I would like to say only two. The first one is the only way to do this is working together. It's the only way. It's a collective action process. And the second one is that we have to believe in that this change is possible.
El cambio es posible, the name of the project. Poppy.
I also have two, sorry to copy you. Sorry. The first one is, share this. Share this beautiful film because everyone's worked so hard at making it, and the more people we share it with, send it to 5 of your friends or 5 family members, because that's how this awareness starts. The second one is, we're looking at making season 2 and 3, so if anyone wants to get involved and has any thoughts or wants to kind of get involved in the project, Maria's here, the team are here, so come and grab us and have a chat.
Don't forget to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because 99% of arguments start when someone has not eaten. Number 2, like they mentioned, tell a friend to tell a friend. We share so many things on WhatsApp, on text, on social media. Each of us share it to 5 or 10 people. That's more impact. Start thinking about how perhaps your country or where you're from or a friend of yours, how can you continue to tell the story? And then last but not least, let's, change begins with us, but also begins with action. Support the project, invest. Pon tu granito de arena. When you get to the universe, it always comes back ×3.
So I love it. Lina, I love that you're closing the call to action because you really have been a champion of this, and this project is very possible because of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria.
So you have a broche de oro.
Christian for all the words. Let's do it. We can do it. Help us to do our job with these stories, share them with us. We can probably help you do something more powerful with them. That's where development banks are for. So we are here for you and for elevate the voice of those who are trying to have a better world, a better life.
Thank you. Thank you for being part of this beautiful night. Thank you to this amazing panel. Thank you for being part of this project. Have a great, great night.